Hello, my friends. This is Lada from AstroladaCom, and today my guest is anthroposophist and teacher Theo. Hello, Theo.
Hello, everybody.
I'm very excited. My interviews with you are some of the most interesting because Theo is has studied in depth the anthroposophical Western esoteric system. And today I ask him if he can give us some answers about what is currently happening in the world through the eyes of occult esoteric science. Because yes, we see history, big historical events are happening, but there is deeper reasons behind all of that. Deeper reasons for the planetary changes, for the social, economic, and political, and earth changes as well. And I'm very excited that you try to explain to us some of those deep reasons, spiritual reasons, through the eyes of Western spiritual esoteric tradition. And by the way, anyone who is interested can contact Theo for a personal consultation. He'll give you a spiritual perspective on your matters. He also knows astrology, but he's an incredible also as a more like a counselor advisor, as you hear now. And also you can check a lot of the previous videos we have done with Theo on diverse topics from education to health to supplements, through world events, through angels and demons. We've covered so many incredible topics. And also, Theo offers a course, The Foundations of Anthroposophical Knowledge, which is our Western esoteric system, which is the most profound so far. Much more scientific, much more in depth than the remains of what we have from ancient ones. I'm sure they were just as profound, but we have very little remaining from those ancient ones. And it was given to us again 100 years ago through anthroposophy. So, Theo, can I ask you, maybe let's start with a topic like climate change. Is it human made according to spiritual esoteric tradition, or is it part of something that's supposed to happen? What is your perspective?
Just to introduce to our guests, a few days ago we were chatting with AstroLada, and I asked ChatGPT, the full version, the paid version, a question, and she said, "Oh, we should talk about this." And then we said, "Oh, what we should talk about?" And we decided to have a more of a freestyle chat on the topics of what's happening now on the world. And because everywhere there's conferences and forums and gatherings on climate change, we are just discussing our point of view through what we observe, I guess, from all the esoteric points of view. And I've been on few forums and conferences in Switzerland and in Egypt with anthroposophists, and it's interesting because it's a two-way stream. There's no one answer to say all humanity made it with the machines, with HARP, the USA system that they're trying to seed clouds.
Cloud seeding.
Um, but it's vehicles, it's really all the digital era that we live in with 4G, 5G, because if now we imagine that 150 kilometers from the surface of the Earth, there are thousands of satellites beaming energy at the Earth. They're warming the atmosphere. They're warming the Earth. So only this is enough for us to say that we have a finger in the topic. And if we look out from all the towers that we have on the Earth, all the electrical towers, not even the internet towers, only the electrical towers,
Mhm.
we're beaming up heat all the time. After that, all the concrete that we have. And when the sun gazes at the concrete, again, we have heat. So that's a no, with all my respect, it's a no-brainer that we are doing something on the earth towards warming it.
Mhm.
And now it's even official in China that they're making clouds with radio waves. So they're sending radio waves into the atmosphere with drones. And 1 hour from there, we have clouds gathering and making rain. And now that's official in Asia, that they're actually making climate
Change.
for, yeah, climate change. They are saying that it's actually all right for the surrounding countries. Nothing is going to happen because it's under control. But that's a little bit picking up your nose. You cannot be sure,
Mm-hmm.
because 20 years ago they were sure that pesticides are not, there's nothing left in the soil, and now they're saying completely different things. So I'm not sure they are really aware of what they're doing to the earth. And I will relate that to what Rudolf Steiner mentioned 100 years ago, that in the future, people will be able to manipulate with waves. He called it with energy waves, that they'll be making volcanoes, earthquakes, and any weather forecasts. And I think now we are at that time, because if we have drones now and we have AI, because the ChatGPT and Gemini are not really AI, they're
Mm-hmm.
really developed synthesizers of information. If they're showing us that, you can imagine what military has under, because that's
Exactly.
probably, they had this, what we have now, probably 10 or 20 years ago. If they showed it, reveal it for human uses, they're far, far ahead.
Absolutely.
So if they're showing us that with drones, that they're making weather forecasts, and now cloud seeding is something normal,
Yeah.
which in the 1990s they were already doing, you can imagine how far ahead they are and when they're going to show it. And that's the very physical point of view. If we look at climate change from a spiritual point of view, or from what anthroposophy mentions, actually the earth is really going forward all the time. And Rudolf Steiner mentioned that from the Christ's coming, actually the earth is declining her life, which is a very, very big, thousands and thousands, maybe millions of years.
Mhm.
But at least we know that we're on pinpoint of the Earth's life. Etheric forces are declining and they're transforming into another being. So the Earth, like us, she's going to reincarnate and she's going to become something else.
Yes.
Uh, sorry?
Yes, yes. I'm just saying
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So what we know is that the Earth has 7 incarnations and she's in her fourth now. And in the future, she'll be actually made from light, and we will no longer be in the physical uh,
That's
body.
the 5D world. Now, a lot of psychics talk about it, but they say it's going to happen in one day. We'll wake up and we'll
Oh,
be 5D, and the world will
yeah,
be out of high vibration. And I know that anthroposophy says, yes, this will happen, but over hundreds of thousands of years. It's not going to be. You wake
yeah,
up one day.
yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, yeah, it's not going to happen like that. There's the climate shift. We have Slava Sebrikova mentions that we're going to have a shift of the continents probably in the next 100 years. That's what she predicts. We're going to have a big shift of the continents, and places where we have seas are going to be land, and the other way around. And this is something that's going to happen like that,
Yes.
but only for the higher, very high teachers. I think it's happening like that, because you can imagine now it's a little bit like a Marvel movie. If now half of the population just like snap and disappears into the etheric world,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. It
Yeah.
needs a gradual process, like the leaf becomes a flower only when the flowers are first big and then smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So it has a little jump there to become a flower, but it's a very slow process. If we expect that, we should expect slowly to see, oh my God, world peace is coming, or everybody's happy. We should see it
Yeah.
around. And I don't think that's really happening.
No, and it's not going to happen overnight unless, I mean, sometimes like a huge cataclysm, like
Yeah,
Slava Sibrikova and a lot of prophets, they say this will happen. She even said some people around her when she was alive said that she said from the year 2025 till 2032,
yeah,
33, that's when where it was oceans and seas, land will come and
yeah,
parts of Europe and the States and other continents will sink,
yeah,
and that will happen very quickly. That
yeah,
will
yeah,
happen within Not like the melting of the snow caps or
Yes,
whatever.
no,
It's
no.
going to be some earth cataclysm, the
Yeah.
way she describes it, with a lot less people who remain after that. And I forgot what I was trying to say.
I think it's related to somebody. I saw some of your posts, Neptune in Aries.
Mm,
It's really something that if you can imagine it when Saturn moves into another cardinal sign, and if Neptune then is still in Aries and we have a square,
mm-hmm,
I think Saturn will be in Cancer,
mm-hmm,
or now Jupiter being in Cancer, but I think it already passed. It's something like that
mm-hmm.
because Pluto is also no, no, that doesn't make sense. Pluto is in Aquarius.
Yeah.
But it's going to be something like a square that we can expect. Uh, and when we have the water planet like Neptune and probably Mars also making a square, something like that. And then we're going to really see flush of water everywhere on the world.
I also think that they'll be even bigger because Saturn and Neptune are together right now.
Yeah, they're together.
And
Yeah.
there is danger of world of cataclysms. And
Yeah.
in July, they're joining almost together within 1 degree because Neptune is the power of nature,
Yeah.
and Saturn is very earthy planet, so it's known for cataclysms. They're
Hmm.
hard aspects, conjunctions, and then there is next year the conjunction again
Yeah.
in February, January. It let's say we have like a 12 month period where some of those cataclysms can start happening because also the prophets and Sevirkova, she explained it will be over 7 year period
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
these things will start sinking.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
one cataclysm here, then there. Let's hope it's not happening yet. But I kind of think that there will be another sign. I don't think it will be just the normal planets. I think there will be
Okay.
like a big comet before that.
Yeah.
They because I speak with a lot of psychics and people with such abilities, and they see the big waves coming,
Hmm.
see the
Hmm.
big earthquakes and waves, but all of them say that they are told that there will be a sign in the sky, not just the
Hmm.
normal one, like a comet or something much more
Hmm.
spectacular, maybe a supernova exploding. Because if we're gonna be sinking half of the world, there
Yeah.
should be a bigger warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Saturn and Neptune, they come together every 35 years, and
Yeah, that's
it
true.
will be plus those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and also we're in the middle of Pisces moving to Aquarius. And we know that every 2000 years, 2100 years, we change from one era when the spring equinox, one constellation rises. Now we're almost on the verge of the Pisces. It's been for the last 2000 years. And Aquarius, it's basically exactly between Aquarius and Pisces now, the spring equinox. And it's about 200, 300 year period when the shift happens,
Hmm.
Pisces to
Hmm.
Aquarius. And they say that's when the weather changes. Every 2100 years, weather changes a lot.
Hmm.
Before Pisces, it was Aries, and the temperatures were hotter, much hotter, because Aries is a fire sign. Pisces, they become cooler. We had a lot of mini ice ages because
Yeah.
water is cold and wet. And now we're going into Aquarius gradually. And over the next 100, 200 years, there will be this kind of the weather changes to it settles for 2000 and something years
Hmm.
constantly into air qualities is hot and wet. So it will be warm and wet. So it will become warmer and wetter.
Hmm.
Was it warm and dry? No, warm and
I
dry.
think it's dry. Yeah, I think it's dry.
Yeah, warm.
From
Yes, yes, warm
yeah,
and
really
dry is
dry.
the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as we know, Aquarius is very unpredictable sign. It rules like thunderstorms, tornadoes, like very mighty forces of nature, sudden onset.
Yeah.
And Aquarius can also rule earthquakes because it's again sudden, it's Uranus
Mm.
energy. So there is definitely what they're saying, it will be happening, but I don't think it's just because of, not at all, just because
With the
uh,
planets. Yeah.
of the human activity.
Yeah. Oh, yes, totally. No, no. I don't think the spiritual world would allow the children of the galaxy to say, "Oh, yeah, you're gonna choose things,
Mhm.
and we're gonna manipulate." I think they're just allowing us to think that we're doing something, So those personalities who are trying to develop I am guessing that they are Ahrimanically influenced strongly, very strongly, and they know that the spiritual, say the hierarchies from the spiritual world are allowing things to happen, so people learn from their mistakes.
Mhm.
So it's like when we allow the children in the kindergarten to have a fight until it gets very dense. And then I think spiritual world kind of, okay, enough of this. And this is what Steiner mentioned that happened to the Atlanteans. They had so much etheric energy that they were extracting from the ether and they were using it that they made the cataclysm, actually. So
Mhm.
it was the humans' activity that made the downfall of humanity then for the Atlanteans. And that's how they, I mean, by water they evaporated. I mean, they passed.
They
The,
they basically they disappeared on the verge between Leo and Cancer when it
yeah,
was crossing into Cancer. So they went into the water.
to the
Cancer is
water.
what the sign, so the waters now. But yeah, I think ours might be earthquakes that trigger uh, kind of like big
Yeah,
tsunamis and so on.
yeah.
Who knows? We'll see. Let's.
Well, from what Steiner mentions that it's going to be egoism. Actually, he doesn't say that we're gonna. He says they. Uh, It's every time it's different. It's fire, water, air, or earth. And he says now we're going to be the baptism by fire. So it's going to be the war of all against all, as you know. And it's going to be because of major egoism of people that they want to be them and they, and it's me, no, not you, no, I made this. And this is going to make fire come out from the astral world. And it's, I think in ancient Lemuria, it was like that. They had such strong forces that it was beaming out from their capsulated body, not the physical, because they were not really physical. So actually, when someone was thinking something very aggressively, he was making things around him explode because
Mm,
they were so much connected with the astro spiritual world. And I'm only guessing because this is forecasted for, I think, 5,000 years from now.
mhm.
We're going to be able really to conduct our thoughts and emotions into the physical sphere, which is not going to be as physical as now anyway. So we're kind of getting into the etheric astral world from now on more and more. And people are really feeling that every time I said, "Oh, I just thought about you. How come you're calling me or how come you're texting me?" Because we are really sensing into the astral world and we're sensing the Aquarius forces of the telekinesis
Yes.
is, and telepathy. And recently I was on a forum here on Hello Health in
Mhm.
Plovdiv.
Yes.
And we had one person giving a presentation about how AI is developing. And I was stunned to hear that actually in 3 countries or 5 countries, it's already official that the medical system can import something which is not even in your, it doesn't have electricity. I don't know if uh, it's a mini drone or it's something that they put it into your stream, but after that it comes out, it connects with your nervous system, and when you think, it dials and it types on the computer. And
Mhm.
you are moving the precursor and the mouse and everything. And they say it's for people with degenerative nervous systems to
Mhm.
allow them still to function in the social realm. And these countries are allowed to do those sections for people, and they are allowed to have this system in them for 30 or 60 days, and after that they take it out. So already we have the capability of working on a computer without touching it, putting information, talking, and etc. Which for me means that if on this, let's call it dark side, that the communication and the level of spiritual power is also equal to that. So we are capable of doing these things, communicating with each other, and really engaging into the etheric astral world through a strong meditative state. if it's happening in the physical world, then it's possible now as a super sensible
Yes, much
perception.
easier. Basically, you
Yeah,
say that the high forces don't allow, if we haven't developed the natural organic means of
yeah,
the positive one, the natural
yeah,
evolution, if you haven't developed it, which would be natural telepathy, for example,
yeah,
they wouldn't allow this to happen in the artificial way.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there always has to be balance.
Yes, very cool. Yeah.
There's probably an incredible amount of people who have this ability already and
Mm-hmm.
using it to feel, to know, to feel the thoughts of others. And but this reminds me so much what Steiner says 100 years ago. He says, when the time of Ahriman comes, which is what we'll call it the time, and it's going to be a short time, but still of the Dark Lord
Yeah.
incarnation on Earth, people will start huge. People will be doing what we consider magic, what we consider like special superpowers. And this, the ability with your mind to control machines, to control devices, to talk to others if another one has in their mind also the same thing. So that he said it because he couldn't explain it with current terms like AI or whatever, or kind of tiny. He said like it will look like miracles, like those people have developed incredible, phenomenal abilities, but it will be artificial, and that
Yeah.
is a sign that it's Ahriman's time now.
Yeah. And well, it's interesting because I just recently heard about Bulgarian, another clairvoyant, Vera Kuchovska. Have you
Yes.
heard of her?
Oh, yes, of course.
I was amazed. She was doing spiritual science, you know, she was doing movements and extracting aches and health problems from other people. And it just looked like eurythmy what she was doing.
Mm.
And then she had a communication with a good friend of her. And she said, "Oh my God, do you know what I read the other day?" And the clairvoyant says, "Yes, I know. How come you know?" Well, because your mind
He's failing.
is in the world. And I was thinking about you also. Oh, and I saw you there into the Akashic Chronicles. I'm guessing it was into the Akashic. And I saw you reading the 47th page of this book, and you were very impressed by this sentence.
Yeah.
So it's like when we type in AI, he can get to everything that's on the web, probably almost everything. But also, the Akashic Chronicles is an open book for the talented. So every thought, everything that ever happened or is going to happen, I'm guessing, is there. And you can even enter someone's presence when he's doing an activity if you have the key for this. It's almost what John the Gospelist says. It's about having the key of the spiritual world and being allowed, I'm guessing, by the Christ to actually enter that realm. And this is going to be based only on your moral.
Moral.
This is going to be your key, your moral, and nothing else. And that's why Rudolf Steiner mentions in the it will we are developing a new ether. This is what humanity is giving to the world, the moral ether. So now all the goodness and all the people who are thinking of making goodness, we're actually expanding a whole bubble of a realm that we are making. And that's extraordinary. Just thinking that because he says someone will have the tattoo here with being bad, and on the right hand, it will be the good. And I'm guessing the sign for the spiritual world, if you enter or not, it will be how moral you are,
Hmm.
uh, the straight of your moral. And also it's he mentions it's and Petr Denov also says that how good you're thinking about and you want to do in the physical world, it's your candle that's growing, 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 the light. And when you pass and you go into the spiritual world, this is how much you will be able to see into the spiritual world. If your candle and morals are small, you're blind. But if you're really trying, then you're making your light larger and you will be able to understand. And after that, to make your future body, because you'll see the communication that you need to have with your guardian angel and you'll be able to see what's happening on the world. Let's say now I die after 40 years and a war starts and we need medicine, etc. And I'll be able to say, okay, this is happening in the world now. I need to develop certain qualities. Therefore, I'm preparing myself to be a good part of this world.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not able, I'll be someone who's laying on other people's back and surviving around others,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing why am I here, who am I, or etc. and etc.
Yeah.
So we always have the chance to change things for the world, starting always from us, like Michael Jackson says. Start with the man in the mirror.
And it's not about some complicated occult poses or yogas or special type of breathing. That's what you're trying to teach people, and that's what the Western esoteric society knowledge is. It's about actually very kind of even everyday virtuous people can grow in themselves. This is how you're raising up the earth, and this is how you're preparing to create your uh, Christ body, or they say, like a more
Yeah, yeah,
and your psychic abilities, because you'll be allowed. They can even suddenly one morning you can wake up and you might start seeing auras and stuff, and you haven't done any training for that, any special meditations or breathing, or but you start seeing it because you've built up enough of your etheric forces, which you only build them through doing morally right actions. Can you give us a few examples of what those morals are?
well,
What can we try to build?
it, Peter Dunhoff mentions it very finely. And he says the smallest good that you can do every day without anyone knowing about it, it's feeding a homeless cat or the pigeons. There's always these people with long beards, dirty clothes, but they're always feeding the pigeons.
Yeah.
And now we don't have, nature is the one who is suffering. Or even going and giving blood at the hospital and not needing every small good that we do without even telling our closest people after that. Oh, you know what I did yesterday? I was there and I did that. It when we're trying to expand the understanding to make other people aware of something that we did, we're getting the power out of us that we are. But if we're doing goodness silently, it's we are sure that we're not doing it because of us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to know, other people don't need to know we're doing it. Spiritual world needs to know. And if he's the only one, God or the Christ within you, he's the only one that needs to know that. And that's how you actually embrace and say, not me, but the Christ within me. What St. Paul said. This is not me, but the world, not me, but God, not me, but everybody else needs to be good. And this is what the sixth race of the Slavic, they will be, people won't be able to sit down and be calm
Mm-hmm.
if someone else in the world is suffering.
Because they'll
They
feel that.
will be able to sense that. Yeah.
Mhm.
When we look at YouTube videos or anything else on TikTok, somebody being in pain, and some people say, oh my God, that's awful. Or where you see someone outside, you're sensing what will be an inner feeling without even you knowing, like, oh, I'm feeling my stomach hurts.
Mhm.
Probably someone is being feeling very bad in your family. There's
Yeah.
some people very sensitive, especially women, super sensitive to
We
these things.
already have that. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
but it will become like general population, everyone,
yeah,
they'll
yeah,
have a sense of hunger because there's hungry people around them. They need to
yeah.
eat or or
Headaches and going crazy. People won't know what's happening to them. And exactly what you mentioned, it will be only the people who are trying to develop eagerly, they will understand why they have this. But other people might feel like they're going crazy
yes. And this
because,
actually, like some unusual symptoms some people might be feeling now might be just the awakening of their ability to be super empathic, which is
Yeah.
part of the future of humanity.
Yeah.
We're heading there because humanity will only fix itself and become this big brotherhood, which the sixth root race wants to create, the time of brotherhood and love, only when you feel the pain of others as your own. So
As
if
your
some
own.
of you are feeling that, I know a lot of people, I see it's coming. I see it's happening to a lot. They'll call me and they'll say, I feel so restless, like something anxious. I don't understand what, like something bad's gonna happen. I'm not well, my body aches. And usually it's when there's very tense astrological combinations, like currently now, Neptune square Saturn, square Jupiter, Saturn conjunct Neptune. And so many people have been writing to me. And that's a few days before the attacks to the nuclear site and the start of a new war.
Yeah.
And when it started, they say, now I feel better, but I realized I was feeling this collective, pre-feeling the collective buildup of anger and
Yeah.
of danger that was coming.
Yeah.
And and it's not anything to do with their personal life. Just like I felt sick to my stomach for 10 days before the lockdown started with the whole
Yeah.
COVID thing. I said, something bad is coming over, and I thought it was in my personal life that something bad was coming. And it turned out that it was this.
Worldwide. Yeah.
Yes, and so people are a lot of those unexplained aches and pains. Thank you for mentioning that, or unusual moods and states can be because you're feeling the collective energy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means that you're actually a bit ahead in your development than others because everyone will be feeling that. And then they will not be able to leave the world to suffer.
Yeah.
Talking about that, can we jump to another topic? Because we
Go
cover
on.
actually a lot of topics. What is happening now between in the Middle East and suddenly so many wars around us? Is there some occult hidden history about that or interpretation?
Oh, oh, this is yesterday we had a guest here on the seaside with my wife of another family, and the guy Kevin said, "Do you believe in the Satanists? That they are actually a group of people who are cherishing Satan?" I was like, "You are entering deep waters after 5 minutes after I met you." But this person was thirsty of seeing if he's nuts or he's starting to see something that's hideous. Absolutely. And I I've read a lecture cycle from Rudolf Steiner that I couldn't believe he actually gave, and it was about the dark brotherhoods. And there he explains the reasons of the First World War and the contact with France and England and Russia and etc. and how things were completely uh, posed. I mean, everything was theater, and it was one person that could change the impact of. There could be no First World War if he actually sent only one letter, and he decided not to. So
Why? Why?
I don't remember the specifics, but it was because he was from this bad brotherhoods. So
A
they were
cult
actually,
group, yeah.
yeah, it was a fallacy. I mean, it was made up, the whole thing.
So we're watching the same kind of thing now that they all have a green behind each other's back, what they're gonna plan. They're just like
Yeah.
they're
Do you
also.
know it's so easy now? We are getting all the information. We
Yeah.
know you can read, yep, they're playing it. Yep, that's not true. Yep, yep. And people are saying, "Oh no, that's a lie." Because people now don't believe. They don't believe first in the higher belief systems. They don't believe to their partner because if she signs the contract, she's going to get half of his money and house. They don't believe their brothers and sisters. They don't believe anything. I mean, faith now and belief systems are broken down. And that's what I think the first thing and the most important thing for Europe was to break down their belief systems and their truth and their faith. And
Yeah, in Europe they don't go to church. They it's very rare that people are religious. Now gradually Eastern Europe, they're spiritual. They're becoming more and more spiritual.
yeah, yeah,
This wave is I've seen in America as well. People are becoming more
yeah,
spiritual, but
yeah,
they've rejected the traditional religion, which it's
yeah, the
totally
tradition.
fine because it was
Yeah.
It was very Ahrimanic, as I would say, with
Yeah.
rules.
But I mean, they're not, they don't have even their own made up belief systems.
Yes.
Contemporary people. Even I recently think that even science is no longer a religion. It was maybe in the 1990s until the 2019, 2018. No longer people say, oh, if science says it, then it's true. I don't see that anymore.
No.
Even people in science, when I speak with them and say, okay, read this, this is what we did experiments here. The people, it's like they're out of the clouds even. They're not up in the clouds. They're not grounded anymore with their thinking, and they're not able to digest thoughts, concepts. And when somebody says, "Did you know that Israel is manipulating Germany?" Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And that's where it finishes.
Yeah.
And that's it, it could be 60% of Europe that you have conversations like that. So you can imagine that so many people are on a leash. They're saying, oh, okay, well, yeah, what can I do? And that's, yeah, you cannot do anything in the physical world, maybe. Even if you buy everything organic or you don't buy energy and etc. and you don't invest your money in that, probably that's not helping because they have all their systems managed very well, the higher people who are managing the world. But since the Templiers entered into Europe, even around the year 300, I think since then we had people manipulating society in smaller scale, because when the Christ came, Ahriman started working.
Mm-hmm.
He just is like, okay, now I'm building up my time for my incarnation. So he needed to start taking the money realm, the information realm, slowly the agriculture, architecture, everything in the physical world, which makes all the money, gold and etc., etc. So it's slowly he kind of got more and more people and power, and um,
And now
he started,
it's fully in the
yeah, and now it's
Ahrimanic.
fully integrated. You
Oh,
don't have a
banks.
place,
Basically, the whole control system of the world is
yeah,
money.
you don't have one place on earth, I think personally, that Ariman doesn't see, like literally. Especially with all the things flying up in the sky, he can see nearly everything.
Can
It's
you
not
tell just for our viewers who is Christ and who is Ahriman? So, because a lot of people might not know who Ahriman is, and that there is
okay.
spiritual beings that incarnate at certain intervals on Earth with different missions, and how
Okay.
they're juxtaposed.
All right. So in the Bible, there is actually, if someone read it up closely, there is two bad forces mentioned. Christology doesn't see it like that. Christianity, they see it as one bad. It's Satan and it's the devil. The one who tempts Adam and Eve, it's Lucifer. Everybody knows that name. But the one who after that is called Satan actually is not the same force. It's another force who later is being called Ahriman, or in Persian traditional religions, they call it Ahriman as well. And the Christ, as we know, is the Son of God, the goodness that everybody has little part in himself in the heart. And when Paul says, not me, but the Christ in me, he has my higher self. I want my higher self to come, not my ego. I want my higher self to show. And Lucifer has been incarnated 2000 years before Christ. So he was actually in a physical body in an emperor in China who gave all the arts, a little bit of the spiritual knowledge, beauty, wisdom, a lot of things he gave to tempt. They were tempted, but he was actually developing humanity. After 2000 years, I think it's 2500 actually, Christ came in the middle and the big goodness incarnated into humanity, and he transformed our physical body into gradually building up the light and bright body in us, the crystal body in us, which is a finer body that we're every time we do goodness, we're trying to live into that body. And 2000 years, and I think there should be 2100 years after the Christ, Ahriman should incarnate now, the other bad thing, which is the intellect, technology, wanting to consume the world, to 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 reject the spiritual world entirely. It doesn't exist. Because Lucifer actually says everything's spiritual. We don't need to live on earth. That's why they're the two bad realms. And the middle is Christ saying there's a spiritual and a physical world, and we need to harmonize between them. So
You
when we
not
mention
like
Ahriman,
escape and never reincarnate again. Like there's some
yeah,
people I want this to be my last incarnation, and that's
yeah,
Luciferic influence. And others say, I don't want to ever die. I want to stay and live on earth.
immortal, yeah,
Yes, that's the
yeah,
Ahrimanic influence. And
yeah,
either they're not bad, but they're extreme, and the Christ is the middle.
extreme, yeah, yeah. Well, it's a common sense of good or bad that we're just trying to vocabularize.
Yeah.
But you can see it really when you talk with people. I have a lot of women usually texting me, but I want this to be my last incarnation, or I was never incarnated before, and things like that. That this is actually not really true. Maybe you feel like that because of certain position that you're in life, but you probably have been incarnated many times. There's not many souls that haven't been incarnated, and they are usually a very, very special, and they are being kept not to incarnate only if something super specific is going to happen with the touch of God. I mean, if someone says, I haven't been incarnated anymore, and he works in a company about whatever, he's probably have been incarnated if he's not doing something super drastically in his life and changing the whole
Or,
world
or if
tracking.
someone says, "Oh, I'm a star seed. I've never been on Earth. I've been incarnated, but on other planets." A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
They have memories of other planets, and what is that? Is that kind of
I
Luciferian
think it
deception?
is it is Luciferic, but I think it's partly true, but they cannot put it into order because you and I have been incarnated in different planets, and many people have, but the planets of the Earth's reincarnation, we have been born in Saturn and the moon and on the old sun, which is the concept of anthroposophy, which is super complicated. I
Yeah.
get it into my foundational course if somebody wants to delve deeper. But we have been on different planets because the Earth has been incarnated in different planets. But there have been four by now. So
Yes.
they have been on planets that have the names of our solar system. So everybody says if I lived on Al's Blue G planet, that's probably something a little bit more Luciferic coming out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, because a lot of the people say, I have memory. We're like floating. We're not in physical bodies. It's a wonderful world. That's the Saturn, the sun incarnation of Earth, the moon
Absolutely.
one. They were,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how they're described in anthroposophy.
Yeah. It's almost if someone from the science, let's say chemistry, he's an intuitive chemist and he says, I see there is an element with fire within it. And it moves like this, and it's called, and he makes up a word.
Yeah.
He's right, but he just doesn't have the vocabulary. That's probably hydrogen of the complex of science. So these people are probably sensing it. They just don't have the common vocabulary of this European stream of spiritual science, which it's being made only for the sake of communication, but also the spiritual realities are given by initiates. They're not given by them. It's archangels above them that they're saying, use these words,
Yeah.
use these words, use these words, because words, let's say double a sword with two blades means something. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita and Muslim and spiritual and Christianity they use that for the Christ because he uses the spirit and the earth. He's on both places. So certain words have realities into the astral world. So when you say a turtle, it means something super specific, and you're trying to connect with the concept that was made by an archangel. And when you use concepts that were made by archangels, you're working with archangels. That
Mhm.
means you're trying to work. But if you say, oh, that's a bubble gum, and you mean an astral body, then you're totally not in sync with an
Oh,
archangel and say, yeah, but I made this up because I saw it in the astral world. And then if a non-clairvoyant spiritual scientist with a lot of experiences just looks at you, it's like, yeah, you're talented, but there's something there and it's not working right. You're trying to take the tablet from the other side, not from the mouth. So it's very specific. I mean, you're trying to put certain concepts into place so you can communicate them with other people. Because 3 years ago, I could be saying, "Oh, I had so much knowledge. I'm gonna make another foundational spiritual scientific course, and I'll be super with a lot of money and helping and healing other people." But when I die, my karma is gonna be like they're gonna be hitting me like, "What did you do? What do you think of yourself?" I'm just imagining an archangel doing like this. You misbehaved down there. And if people start acting from that, they're gonna really try talking a bit with closed mouth more. It's like the when you hit the dog with a newspaper.
So, sorry, to return back because we digressed. The wars in the Middle East. What kind
Yeah.
of spiritual reason?
So Israel, USA, and Russia are really a triangle. China is also there, but we'll leave it for the time being. If we look from what Israel was, she was not a country actually, but what the Hebrew nation, they were chosen and they couldn't live to their expectation, to the expectation. So they suffered a lot from the next cultural epoch, from Germany. It has been said that actually the Hebrews suffered a cultural karma for their decision 2000 years ago. And it's not because, oh yeah, it's good to suffer. It's they needed culturally to regain what they have lost and what they have given away 2000 years ago. So
To
the
redeem.
archangel of the country needed to go through that suffering part of his nation because every nation has an archangel.
Mhm.
And the future archangel of Germany was the one who needed to do that to the previous one. Every previous cultural development, let's say Greece and the Romans.
So yeah, that was the fourth one, which
Yeah,
the Greco-Roman one.
yeah,
Okay, then came the Anglo-Saxon one, which is the
yeah.
Anglo-English, the German English,
The
and
German
we're
English, yeah.
still in that one, and then
Yeah, we
comes
are.
the Slavic one.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
that's why now we're seeing that the West world and actually America is an English culture,
Mhm.
English-based culture. You know how many places England has taken? It was parts of India, it was Africa, South Africa, Australia. They were nearly everywhere because it's the nature of the cultural epoch. The white person with the intellect on the front of the head, gaining momentum, the intellect needed to develop. But it was misconcepted because the consciousness actually needs to develop, the consciousness soul of understanding. That's why they were so forward thinking. They could see clearly, oh, you connect this and this, and we're gonna have the world, you know? We can make the weapons, and then we just say people are still with spears.
Mhm.
So, but they misused the
Mhm.
way. They needed to give the consciousness to other nations, if we look at from the positive sides, to give consciousness to Africa, to South America,
Mhm.
to Canada, to Mexico. So now people are actually thinking on a higher level with the intellectual consciousness thinking. So now everybody has the possibility of consciously thinking. But now, if everything on the backside is English people, it's the Hebrew nation that had this concept thinking 2000 years ago. That's why the Christ chose them because there is this specific physical thing in the brain of the Hebrew that they can really work with mathematics. That's why they were able to manipulate money and just to say, oh, we're going to build this architecturally here. And with agriculture, we're going to build it. We're going to take water here. They were really good at extracting information and using it into the physical world. And now I think it's a little bit the aggression that they're now no longer pulling the string because they're no longer the smartest nation. I mean, the possibility of physically being
Well,
smart.
it's very likely a lot of them are also not a lot of them actually are from Eastern Europe. They have totally
Yeah,
different genes.
yeah,
The
yeah.
majority of them are from our lands.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
I mean, now there's many nations, do you have a Hebrew and an Englishman being together and then have a
yes,
baby
there
with,
is that, like genetics have mixed so
yeah,
much.
yeah,
For that, they were separated. Tribes were
yeah,
separated, and they had
yeah,
distinct racial differences in
yeah,
different capabilities, whether intellectual, physical. Now everything is mixing, and it's not the same anymore.
yeah. And you have now America, which is a future nation, which is going to be after the Slavic, which is always screaming and shouting and saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. We're doing this and this and this because they are very young. They're super young. And children are doing the same. It's like, oh, look at me. I'm doing it better. And it's not because they want to be like that. It's the cultural archangel trying to show itself on the in the world. But at the same time, they're not in Europe. I mean, they're so far away, and everything, the culture is in Europe, Central Europe, and I mean Rome. Just look at Rome and countries like that. There have really a lot, but this thing on the left side is happening. On the bottom is the one who's trying to regain its power because the English, German, and American are gathering forces. And now, just a few centuries ago, Russia started saying, whoa, wait a second. We are 1/7 of the world. Why do we need to combine with other nations? And they're also showing because they're going to be the future one.
There will
So
be the
actually, I
sixth.
think,
There will be the
yeah,
sixth cultural epoch,
yeah.
which is,
So I think,
yeah, it's starting already because anthroposophy looks from the peak of a cultural epoch to the peak, while
yeah,
astrology looks at from the start. So
yeah,
China says that the peak of the Slavic cultural epoch will be in 1,500 years from now.
yeah,
But it starts now, the moment
yeah.
Aquarius, the age of Aquarius starts. And the moment the age of Aquarius starts. But the peak will be in 1,000 years and something that will see the manifestation of the fullness of that culture. So you're saying it's the battle between those three cultural epochs.
And there is always a baseline. And for me, that's China. So the Asian countries are actually a leftover from the Atlantis.
Yeah.
From Atlantis. Do you want to pause?
No,
No, okay. So that's why they are so far. They have pharmacy technology, everything in their hands. We in Europe, almost every pill that is made in China. Every chip that was made in China. So they're quietly ruling the world with economy. And from every now and then they're saying, oh, we're going to make war with this. And then they're again quietly controlling the whole economics. So they're also here on the stage, but because they've been 4 or 5 epochs ago, they're only on the basics of the foundation. But so that's from a spiritual point of view. But I personally think all these countries are playing theater, honestly. I don't think Russia uh, is really thinking that they need to make war with Ukraine or that America needs to be with Iran and Israel. I think they're just every few years they're saying, "Oh, we need to make something because people to be stressed. There's something on the news. We need to make gas go up, petrol, electricity to go up, the economics to go up, food. There's always a need to have a problem. So they're saying, okay, we played a little bit on this side. Now we're going to play a little bit on this side. Now we're going to play on the other side. There's always a bad and good guys because Ukraine and Russia is near. I think it's nearly exhausted
hmm,
because Russia is really strongly getting off of Ukraine. I think they're going to split Ukraine and half of it is going to go in Russia. But it has been how many years? 5 years? N- n- It's yeah, around, I think around COVID, it's already was kind of
Yeah.
peaking.
So they like, so they come together, the good and the bad, and they said we need to keep moving humanity forward by challenging them because if so, let's create another. Is
Yeah.
it the
Well,
same?
it's unfortunate because it's people's lives on the stake. Yeah. But I do personally think that most of the people, or certain percentage of the people who are passing away because of this war, different wars, are actually not necessarily purely people who will reincarnate again. That's a concept that's in the Bible, in the New Testament. The locusts will come and they'll eat all the feed. And it's usually a locust. It's a spiritual term. It's an occult term for a person without a personality. It's a Luciferic or a marine being who found a pocket to get on a physical body.
You're talking
So
like
they
NPCs. We call them non-player, non-participant NPC. We call them like in the computer games, the ones that
just
are,
observing.
yes, they're not actual real people playing.
Yeah, yeah.
To say there exists in spiritual
Spectators.
science,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
exists.
they're called locusts. And Rudolf Steiner, I've read a personal conversation with him. They asked for a therapy for a child, and
Mhm.
he said, "We cannot." It was the only quote that I've seen. We cannot work with this child. He's not a personality. And it was a child in a Waldorf school. And he says there's many people of these now, and there'll be
Really?
more in future. Yeah.
So
And
we
this,
call them NPC.
yeah,
Check it
okay.
online to see what it's
Okay.
like uh, a program. It's a program character,
Yeah.
not
Well,
with
it's
on
yeah,
con.
we it's called astral. It's an astral. He has an astral body, but no personality. So he's very emotional, very a little bit animal-like. I mean, he can talk and say concepts but on the basis he's really animal-like, just surviving. And he's not reincarnate. He's not gonna reincarnate after that.
Well, they're gonna
Well,
wait another evolutionary wave to come again.
I I'm not sure.
That's
It's
too complex to answer. Yeah.
because all the if you have an harmonic being around you, you'll be feeling the density, and they're usually working like that around. But when they get into a body, he could be super strong or even very beautiful because he doesn't have an ego to take all that energy and to put it into a thinking process. But he'll put all that energy into actually being well on the earth, into the physical realm. And it's a very deceptive.
How can
Um,
I know that I'm not one of those beings? Because they feel, they think. Well,
I don't think you would even ask your questions about that.
okay, they're
You
not
won't be
interested
able.
in those matters at all.
They might be, I mean, no, he could be super spiritual and talking rubbish all the time if it's a Luciferic being.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So the
yeah,
beings work through them, but they don't have this distinct ego, individual soul.
no,
Call
no.
it.
They could be very egoistic,
Mm.
but not a person, you know,
They can sound smart, they can
yeah,
everything, but
yeah. So
they
they could be they could come in all kind of, I've been observing some people around me, only trying to practice observation, and they come up with a very different, I'm not saying they are these, I'm just guessing that they might be. But you really need to be like few years into these concepts to able to say
mm,
even physically you
I
can see.
recognize to sense, yeah.
Yeah, to really to because I'm not intellectually recognizing it. I think because I have so much been into it that I can perceive it through knowledge. I mean, it's called um, wisdom clairvoyance. I mean, through knowledge that
It's
you
like a
are.
feeling again of some sort.
Yeah, it goes into a feeling because you've analyzed so much these concepts that like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. And someone says, "How are you seeing this?" Well, it's because I've written for 10 years and now it's easy for me. to come.
So that's probably what overpopulation is
I guess at least 30%
now?
from
Uh-huh.
humanity, I think they're locusts.
And are they like, does their soul gets destroyed? What happens? Do they join to some big mutual soul? Or it's beyond?
Yes, I'm guessing that they're the ones that work with the people from the spiritual world who are dead. All the dead people now are molding the earth physically. So they're sending forces, they're sending us concepts, they're trying to be around to say, whoa, whoa, look at this way or something like that. So I'm guessing they are on big bulbs together, trying to work for something or around something. Even some of them are or around atomic centrals, in around big machinery that they're fused with electricity and etc. So they're around it and giving off energy to kind of keep everything that's in the physical world with energy is being kept alive by an entity, some kind of a spiritual entity. So
Mhm.
I'm only guessing that the Ahriman experience, it's full of them around these places. And just imagine a dirty couple hiding and making love somewhere around that kind of a place. And in that moment when they're just consuming themselves,
Mhm.
and they're probably not going to be interested in these topics ever, ever, ever. And they make a pocket for such kind of a personality because a human soul rarely is interested into having a body made crooked. They're even only if he has very bad karma, human souls are choosing, okay, I need to suffer a little bit because I was bad in a previous incarnation. I need to choose a body who will be in a bad environment. And then they choose these certain people who are drinkers or they smoke all the time or whatever. And they choose the body so they can suffer for 3, 4 years and die after that and say, okay. But if there's so many people, there's the dark side, like orgies and etc. and consuming and etc. And those are the places that kind of locusts kind of say, oh, there's so many bodies of these. Well, I'm gonna find it because they need to fight expression.
Mhm.
So that's a very, very dark side of occult spirituality that is rarely talked, and it's usually personal conversations
I never knew
around them.
about that. I'm just shocked and surprised, and because so many people are starting to mention now that not everyone is the same like humans around us. They're not saying they're aliens, they're saying those people don't have the same kind of soul like us.
Yeah, yeah,
They're feeling it and they're getting it in dreams and in feelings. But then it's a bit dangerous because every time we don't like someone, we can
yeah,
call on that.
yeah, yeah.
And we can say, oh, they don't need any help. They can't be helped because they are, you know.
Ah, that's a trap. That's a trap. Rudolf Steiner mentioned that, I mean, they wanted to prescribe him homeopathy and etc. or some eurythmy, but he said, yeah, maybe it's good for me to mention that. Love is the best remedy for these people.
Mm.
Just to love them as you would love, because they are absent of love. They are beings who are almost, they haven't been wanted. I mean, they haven't been called from a
Okay.
man and a woman searching for a soul. They just jumped in.
Oh my
You
God.
know?
So they feel
And
that they're
so if
probably
they,
most broken.
yeah, if they feel love, they might behave bad, like still, but you're doing something on the spiritual realm. You're really giving off. You're doing this moral goodness for someone who has been forgotten. He is still a something in the of the spiritual
Hmm.
world of beings. We don't understand what it is, but he still is made by God. So there is still love there. Because the basis of everything, the foundation of everything is the love of God, the all forgiving. So if we act from his foundation with love towards these beings, we are working towards his beings with his foundational parts. So it's that what's needed.
So you think there'll be like a purification or a cleanup of those locust souls you're saying, and not because They're bad or evil, they're just not part of the next evolutionary step of human.
Uh,
They're not gonna have entry points.
so a few days ago, I was thinking how to start our conversation, and the Matrix, the first part of the Matrix, is what I think we're living in now, but it just doesn't look like in the movie.
Mhm.
If you know when Morpheus says we're all batteries,
Mhm.
well, these people or these personalities are batteries of Ahriman or Lucifer now, and they're building the communities of these two beings because they're working on the computers, they're making the chat GPT, they're being the ones who are doing 18 hours of work on a computer and they're losing their health and etc. So he's consuming them and he's making new ones and new ones. So for now, the energy that they show in the matrix that the robots are
Yeah.
using the electricity from biological electricity is nearly what we're looking at now. There's those people all the time on computers, even their fingers are breaking down because they're staying like this. Here, the this part of the spine is also because we're always like, so they even take the form a little bit of these, like a different beings. So they have, thanks to them, you and I and other people are able to look at this.
Yeah.
But if we now work on this, if we make a podcast about football or soccer or whatever, we are using these people. But now we're trying to use our mediator through the PC and the internet to actually to uplift or just to give information for people to uplift. So it's again that we're trying to thank them that they're doing this for us
Mhm.
so we can actually continue working towards this. Because in the past, when you had the sorcerer and the tribe around him, the sorcerer was always, or the druid or the pharaoh, they were always telling other people to build up buildings and they were tortured. But they were actually allowing them to be part of the foundation of a new culture that will be upward. So
Yeah.
it's not that we disrespect them, we try to fit them in a system that this system is trying to uplift the whole because every chair has legs. Someone needs to be the legs. Usually it's Taurus, but Taurus is equal to Capricorn. It's
Mhm.
just Capricorn is going to say, you do it. I'm
Mhm.
going to think how to do it because Taurus cannot think of it. So it's about, yep, these people might not have personality. They might not be human souls, but we respect their part of the whole. And this is where I think the teaching of the White Brotherhood and of anthroposophy really need to coagulate because anthroposophy has so much knowledge that sometimes people run off and
Yeah.
they don't have moral and love towards
Mhm.
such topics.
Mhm.
So yeah, back to the war. I think they're just making reasons of sending weapons. Uh, while this is happening, they're pushing ships with drugs and probably other things, probably precious metals and etc. But this is so far, far, far from the modern person
Uh,
to observe or to
Something
say, oh,
that a lot of people are starting to realize such things.
yeah,
And
but what can you do? You're going to go on the border and you're going to stop the ship or something.
mm.
It's very hard now. You cannot physically stop Ahriman. Even if you break your PC, he's still there. If you stop one 4G tower, he's still there.
So
It's
the
about
only
how
ways to develop those virtues, which is like don't lie, be kind to others, try and forgive, try not to think and talk bad about others, or like I started recently because I'd always wake up and pray and God, help me with this today, this. And I said, it doesn't feel right. I don't feel, I'm going to try a different approach. So I started waking up and praying, God, let me be of use to you. Let me finish whatever work you have for me. And I've been praying like that for a week, and suddenly every day, two or three people are coming in my door directly. They've heard about me. I'm like, I don't even do personal readings, but they find me in a village. I'm hidden here. I'm getting divorced. And I'm like, what's happening? I don't have my free time. And I'm like, you are asking to be you, and people are calling me, and I'm every day I'm solving someone's problem and helping and trying to lift them up. And I'm like, God, I'm so exhausted. What's happening? And then I remembered, wait, I was praying, can I be of use? So I should be grateful. And so it can be, if anyone comes to help for you, try to do the best for them. Or if you see like your neighbor is struggling with something, try and help them. It's as simple as that, not changing the world, like you say,
Yeah.
going
Unfortunately,
stopping the ships and
yeah, exactly. And going to the parliament and trying to enter and say, oh, we want this and this. It's really the Christ's path is very thin, very small, and it hurts. It's very hurtful. I mean, just imagine being crucified, uh, psychologically or mentally or emotionally. Every time you crucify because of something good, you are working toward. But that doesn't mean go and just say, okay, I'm gonna do this. Just mentally think how you can be helpful. I had recently a person from a Steiner school saying, I'm trying to wake up people there, my colleagues, which we are in a Steiner school, and it's hard for them. They don't want to be part of this. And
Hmm.
she's suffering because of the children there. She's trying to, and that's a person who keeps trying to help 60 children, and that's her path. That's what she does. And I think
Yeah,
that's a,
you might be a teacher, you might be a cook. It doesn't matter. It's possibly putting more love into everything you do, even a
yeah,
simple.
yeah.
Uh, we can, as we say, because people feel so powerless in the face of what's happening. And how can I change the world? You can't, but you can just put more love in everything you do. And that's how you're walking the path of the Christ. And just like with work, if you do your work with love, you already put the Christ impulse in it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you so much, Theo. We again, we can carry, I think if we can carry on for another 3 hours, and now it always fascinates me with knowledge and topics that we discuss. We probably should continue again soon with further questions. So maybe even look at the normal people's lives with different interesting stories and spiritual resolution
Hmm.
to mundane or normal people's life situations and spiritual
Yeah,
reasons for those life situations rather than those big topics that we discuss now. Maybe next time we
yeah.
should take like, oh, someone, you know, someone keeps breaking up and coming back together with some person and
That's a great, yeah, getting a close up. That's
yes,
nice.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you so much again. If anyone would like to contact Theo or learn the foundations of anthroposophical knowledge, it's an incredibly huge base of the whole creation of the whole earth. It starts billions of years ago, and that there's 7 incarnations of earth. That in the current one we're in, there is 7 cycles, then another 7 and 7, and we know what will happen in thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and billions even. The next step for humanity and for consciousness. It's been all laid out from the very beginning of creation of the earth and of humanity and every human soul. And that's what anthroposophy, the great gift of anthroposophy. So it gives you cosmology, so you're not lost in so many confusing beliefs that are around. And it's science, but it's also esoteric knowledge and spiritual meaning. So thank you so much, Theo. He offers this course. I'll put a link for it again. And yeah, and to contact Theo as well personally.
Thank you, Mala. Thank you for having me again. Bye, everyone.